Welcome to Creative Piecemeal. I'm Tammy Takaishi, a board-certified music therapist. Join me each week as a new guest from across the fine and creative arts spheres shares struggles, triumphs, laughs, words of wisdom, and more in authentic, thought-provoking, and inspiring interviews. Hello, and welcome to Creative Piecemeal. I'm super excited to have Jack Canfora and Michael Satow of the true crime parody podcast, The Murderer Killings, on the show. Michael Satow is known for The Good Fight, Elementary, and Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and of course, The Murderer Killings podcast, which came out at the end of 2025. If you're not listening to it, you should, especially if you're a fan of true crime, comedy, all sorts of things like that. Jack Canfora, a long-standing guest on Creative Piecemeal. He is a playwright, author, teacher, musician, and known for his plays Poetic License, Jericho, and more. And of course, for writing The Murderer Killings. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
So nice to be back.
Woohoo! Very excited. Jack, since you've been on here before, I'm going to start with Michael in terms of questions.
I get it.
You're old hat. I'm sorry.
I'm old. So I get it. You kids talk.
You'll go
Thanks,
make a
Dad.
tea, right?
Yeah. There are kids on my lawn. I'm going to get them off there. So you go.
So, Michael, I'm wondering what brought you to the world of acting, and how did you get involved with The Murderer Killings?
Okay, let me start from the first one. For my entire adult life, I told one story, but I realized very recently that it's I don't know. I think that might be malarkey. I'm so glad I asked about swearing
make sure
before
you
I said
swear.
that.
Yeah. No, gosh.
So the story I've been telling is there's two movies that made me want to be an actor. One was when I was 4 years old. I was living in Queens with my family, and I walked downstairs. I should have been in bed, but I walked downstairs, and my dad was watching Terminator 2. And I don't remember much, but I do remember like that music, that like do 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 do, and the flames and the opening credits. And for some boomer reason, my dad let me watch the movie. And there was something so exciting about it. Like I wanted to be John Connor. And I remember asking my parents if I could be in Terminator 3. And they're like, yeah, sure. And they had no idea how to help me with that. So that was one thing. That spark happened when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And then later on, I saw the movie Chaplin with Robert Downey Jr. And just seeing what this guy who was 27 at the time could do made me realize that there's something kind of incredible here. And so that's when I really latched onto it and wanted to pursue it. The thing I realized recently is I think it was actually The Wizard of Oz that made me want to do it.
A lot of
I didn't
people
realize
think that was Terminator. It's basically the same film.
It's the same thing. You have to watch Terminator backwards to realize. It wasn't until I watched Wicked with my kids. I hadn't seen it, and my daughter put it on, and it just kind of zoomed me right back to when I was a kid. And I used to watch Wizard of Oz on repeat. All that to say, I think I always had a craving to be part of a big story, part of an adventure, and I just wanted to kind of climb inside those stories.
Excellent. And what got you involved in The Murderer Killings? I know you've teamed up with Jack in the past.
Yes, I've worked with Jack many times. I met my wife doing a play of Jack's, and so I like him. I like his words. And I think it was in 2020 that The Murderer Killings started sort of as a group chat. Jack sort of had this idea. He's like, what if this? Wouldn't it be cool if? And he started sort of pitching ideas, and we'd giggle about it, and I'd pitch ideas back, and we'd giggle about it, and then we'd kind of send little voice notes to each other. Could it sound like this? Could it be funny if it was like this? And then it was so romantic. And then so Jack went away, and he did a first pass of the entire script, which he lovingly called a novella because of its scope. And from there, we started piecing together what you hear now. But it started years ago now.
Yeah, I think it was like, I don't think it was 2020, but I think it was like 2023, 20, yeah, probably 23, 22. It's been at least 3 years from conception to execution.
And it's so good. Jack, where did you draw your inspiration? Like, why this? Why a parody of true crime?
I have no idea. I thought there was a period of time I was really into true crime, and I still like it. I still enjoy it. It still can be very entertaining. One time I was listening to like an ad for a true crime thing, and it asked a rhetorical question. I forget the specifics, but I answered it in a way that made me giggle. And then I thought, well, it's funny. I got to find parodies of this and true crime. I bet you there'd be some good stuff. And we couldn't find any. They basically didn't seem to exist, which told me I was on to something, or I was really not onto something because people had decided it was best not to do it. But I reached out to Michael, and because he's a very funny guy, and a reasonably gentle arbiter of, like, so I'll say, is this something? And he agreed. And then it sort of took a life of its own. We just enjoyed writing it. And that, I think, our rubric, or informal, goal, rule was, does it make us giggle? Can we make each other giggle? And we some of the bits, very self-congratulatory, still make us giggle.
Even
Years
if they
later.
make no one else giggle.
Yeah,
There were
they're
certain things that no one else that we kind of tested it on found it funny, but it was just it was too funny to us. And
yeah.
so if you're ever not laughing, know that we are.
At least someone's laughing. That's the important part, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. And what Jack didn't know when he approached me with it is that I am a proud true crime junkie. I have listened to so many. And so the soundscape and the tone and the deliciousness of true crime was just buzzing through me when he came to me with it. And so it was an obvious yes. And we searched high and low for a parody. It just seemed someone must have done it already. And I think there was one. There was at the time, there may be more now, but I think there was one. And what we noticed was it was so well produced, and I don't mean that as a compliment.
Mm.
It was a real studio production, and it felt like almost like a TV show. It was a story that you listened to, that you sat back and you watched in your mind, or it was a story that you separate yourself from. And so what we set out to do is create something that, if you were really tired, or if if you let yourself kind of be washed in it, you could sort of give over to the reality of it. We wanted it to sound real, and part of that meant making it sound a bit dirty. And so we didn't want to record a phone conversation on really good microphones and then put a filter through it and make it sound like an operator was calling. We wanted the actual cell phone. We wanted the dirt and the static from the actual cell phone. If we were doing something that was outside, we went outside and we did it. And so the field recordings were actual field recordings. The phone conversations were actual phone conversations. The
Yeah,
didgeridoo was a real didgeridoo.
it was a real didgeridoo. I don't know how anyone could resist. I would argue that we may be one of the top true crime recordings, or maybe podcasts ever, that prominently features didgeridoo work.
And we're completely objective about that.
Yeah, completely objective. Well, and, the National Didgeridoo Board sent us commendations. I think that's good. I want to compliment Michael here on this too, because one thing we agreed on early is that, is we wanted to make it like as silly as possible, but we could, in the portrayal of it, the recording of it, the performance of it, it couldn't come across as silly in any way. We had to play it completely straight. Michael's, time living in the true crime world, well, true crime podcast world, I'm not trying to imply anything. He, I mean, he really served him well, because I think one of the things that makes the thing work best is the fact that if you're not paying close attention to what we're saying, it sounds exactly like a true crime podcast. And Michael gets all the credit for that. All the he did all the sound design. He wrote the music. And that to me is very much one of the starring characters in the podcast. And in addition to him also taking on the lead role, so it's pretty much a tribute to him. Yeah, and our brave
Thank you,
troops.
Jack.
I'm not sure how, but
Now I gotta say something nice about you to keep it
no, you don't. It's
balanced.
gonna feel so forced. No one's gonna buy it.
Um, you know, this is sort of apropos of nothing, but it sort of is. Uh, we, you mentioned the music, and the one we didn't do a lot of behind the scenes recording, and that's a major regret of mine because
Mm.
I think seeing the actors and seeing all of us put it together would have given a real sense of what a labor of love it was, and really how scrappy the whole production was. I think it ends up being polished enough, but we were a 1, 2, 3 man band.
Yeah, and we were, Michael and Michael's wife, a very talented actress, Eleanor Handley. She plays Margaret Mandragora Jones, who is a very important character in the play from Australia. And Eleanor likes to talk about at the time she was, they had two small children. She was working a full-time job. She was also doing a play at Lincoln Center. And she'd come home at 10:30 at night, just exhausted and just wants to, watch some TV and go to sleep. And Michael would say, "Okay, I need to grab you for a few minutes." And she hadn't, correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, she really hadn't read the whole script. She didn't know the whole story
Jack, she hadn't
necessarily.
read any of the script. She hadn't
Okay.
even read the lines that she was going to say that day.
Yeah, so she has no idea what she's walking into. So it's a testament to their strength of their marriage that it survived that sort of, frankly, rank abuse of Eleanor's time. But yeah, so it was a lot. It was a labor of love. We have a lot of friends who happen to be, we think, be remarkably good actors, and we wrote, I think, sometimes with them in mind, right? I mean, certainly Margaret's character, we wrote very much with Eleanor in mind, and our friend Carol Todd, who's a brilliant actress, she plays Estelle Hayes, the Airbnb owner. Very much from the get-go, we're like, well, that's Carol's role, obviously, and so
Fan favorite,
she's a
Estelle
fan favorite.
Hayes.
She's a fan favorite. Yeah.
As is Taylor Brannigan, Megan Greener, a very, very good actor.
Yeah, and she has a very hard and very thankless role in a way. She's one of the central characters, but she's the closest we have to like a straight man. She doesn't, she's the only sane person really in the town or in the series, and so she has the job of setting everything up and like grounding everything. And there's a reason, as they say, that Abbott was paid more than Costello because it's harder to sort of like to be the straight person in the midst of all the craziness, and she does a great job with that.
Which is why I was getting $1 million an episode.
Yeah, it really sapped our budget. It really sapped our budget.
And it's also worth saying that Eleanor Hanley, my wife, who plays Margaret Mandragora Jones, for all of her contempt in the on the day, uh, knocked it out of the park. And I actually think a little bit of that impatience came through in a really helpful way.
Well, she said as
So,
much, yeah. Because if obviously we're hoping everyone will listen to it. And Tammy, you've listened to it, so you know that the character of Margaret is not overburdened with pleasantness. And let's just put it that way. Um, she might be the most awful human being we've ever had the pleasure to write, and so she really, getting that sort of level of nastiness was no great problem for her. Challenge on that, but she's actually she's actually a very lovely person in real life, but she was not necessarily loving the situation. To me, what everyone does, and the roles, I couldn't ask for better acting, and as we're writing it, you know that they're just gonna make everything better just by the way they're and Michael, you know, Michael probably does 60% of the talking in this as the host, and I don't want to let the curtain peek back too much, but he also does about a million other voices in it. Although you'd have a hard time telling that. It's the acting that really sells it, and I think again what the consistent thing is that there's no sort of winking at the camera, right? Everyone is just committed to saying their thing, however ridiculous what they're saying is.
What does it feel like going from the conception of it all those years ago, which I remember listening to Rough Cuts and it was just brilliant, to having it out, having it ranking in top tens and just really on fire presently?
well, it's pretty great. It's great when you have a joke in your head and then you say it out loud and everyone laughs. And it's terrible when you have a joke in your head and you don't know whether or not to say it,
Mm.
uh, or when to say it. So, in the sense that it's out there and people are laughing, it's just a bliss. It's a blissful feeling. That said, sharing it and spreading the word is, as you know, Tammy, uh, a tremendous amount of work. I mean, putting the podcast together is a tremendous amount of work, and then this is a totally separate set of skills. And in the 6 months before we released the podcast, I had sort of gone completely off social media, and I was so happy. I loved it.
Yeah.
It was great, and I think
Me
since
too,
we
actually.
released on December 10th, I have been on social media more than I have been off social media, if you don't count sleep. And I have a little bit of a sick feeling about that. And but it just seems, especially for what I will continue calling a scrappy production at this point, the only way to continually spread the word.
Yeah, I mean it's a full-time job, and actually, and Michael obviously has been great about putting out the thing, Instagram posts and stuff, and he's really done pretty much all of that. So, but I'm on it too, and I'm trying to repost and etc. And I share Michael's queasiness about jumping back onto social media. But if you can focus on like the things that you just pay attention to, yeah, it's been really rewarding. Michael and I were confident, and as confident as you can be in something that actually hasn't been tested. There are a few people whom we shared with, I mean, you among them, early stuff whom we trusted, and is this funny, or is this just one of these things that feels funny when you're saying it with your friends, or is it actually funny? And we were, assured generally that it was, so we felt confident in that. But to have done so well so early, I don't think we could have. I didn't envision that. I mean, we had hoped eventually, but I mean, this is pretty quick, and so.
Yeah, we had originally said, somewhat arbitrarily, that if we got 10,000 downloads, we would consider it not an abject failure. And I truly and as Jack said, we believed in the content, but I was so afraid that this thing was going to drop into the well, and
Right.
you know, our family and our inner circle of friends would hear it, and then that would be it. I was genuinely terrified that that's what was going to happen, and so the fact that just that hasn't happened is such good
Mhm.
news.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised at all by the success. It's fantastic acting, fantastic writing. I'm
Sure.
curious though, what is something that you didn't expect from the process of
Ooh.
from the writing into the release?
That's a really good question. A plus, Tammy. That's a good question.
Well, I will say this: if I'm not someone that shies away from hard work, but if I knew how hard it was going to be
Mm,
to put these 9 episodes together, I can't say honestly that I would have done it
right.
if I knew how many hundreds and hundreds of hours it was going to take.
Yeah, Michael really did so much work on this that I mean, in terms of sheer man hours, it's frankly there's no comparison. And so I don't want to take credit for something I didn't do. I mean, and Michael helped with the writing. Michael wrote some of my favorite parts of it actually. But in terms of like Michael was involved in every step of the way, every single process, and I helped out where I could. But Michael was involved in every recording, directing every actor, and I would from time to time chime in. But I mean, it's
You were
really,
on a lot of those sessions.
yeah, but I wasn't paying attention, and
Sure.
yeah, and but Michael's and all the editing is Michael, all the and like he would set and which requires more work for him because and then he would do the rough edit and he'd send it to me, and so occasionally I'd have notes, and then we talk it out, and sometimes he'd go back and revisit things. That means even more work for him. So and then he came up with all the music. Having said that, there were some things, Michael, and this is to your credit, but you absolutely did not have to do, but you became a little obsessed with doing. Like the Shady Grove Christmas song, which
Yeah.
it plays in the background for like 30 seconds at most.
No, no. I think
I
we get
can't.
about 9 seconds of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but what it was an episode that takes place over Christmas, and well, it didn't really need to do anything. I could have grabbed a public domain carol, but I ended up doing I think it was a 7-part harmony uh,
Almost a
men's
madrigal.
chorus
Yeah.
version. Not version. It was an original carol called "Christmas in Shady Grove."
What? That's not the full title. What's it called?
Oh, Christmas in Shady Grove,
Parentheses.
in parentheses,
Vengeance in
Vengeance
December.
in
In December.
December. Yeah.
It's my favorite Christmas carol ever involving vengeance.
Um,
Oh,
so, and yeah, we only aired about 9 seconds of it, but I think it's like a 25, 30-second thing. And we put it at the end of the episode. Yeah, I couldn't not. And, it's a creative endeavor and you find yourself in the middle of it. And it's like, well, we're doing this thing. And then
right.
you end up loving it. And so you have to do right by it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so pleased at how well it came together. And again, a lot of that is, Michael's doing, but it's one of the rare times in my creative life that I have thought of something or heard it in my head and it came out exactly the way I wanted it to. And again, Michael gets a lot of credit for that, but it's there was no compromise in terms of the quality whatsoever. And in fact, we made the first two episodes. We made those fairly early on and relatively quickly, if memory serves. And we did that as sort of a proof of concept to try and give to people. One of the problems we had and are continuing to have is to figure out how to sort of get it to more, the powers that be, whomever they may be. And then we sort of realized, well, if we do the whole thing, not only will that maybe be a good selling point, but then we also said, but we know for a fact we'll get it done exactly the way we want to get it done. You throw these ideas out, and then it becomes putting it together by committee, and then you lose a lot of things. And so we made it, for better or for worse, it was exactly what we intended it to be.
Yeah, there was a world where, and it was actually a distinct possibility at one point, where a platform was genuinely interested just at our 2 episode mark in purchasing it and essentially licensing all the content and paying us to finish the season. And we really don't know how much. I mean, there would have been some creative control ultimately that we would have given up. And I say and pretend to believe that it worked out the way it's meant to work out because we had full creative control. And now, as you say, Jack, now we get to take it and either just let it go and let it live on the internet forever as things do, or see what happens next. It would be really lovely to head back to Shady Grove
Hmm.
for a season 2.
Yeah,
So
I
time
mean,
will tell.
yeah, a couple of things people have said to me recently that I'm actually very pleased to hear, and this could answer your question too about what's been surprising about the reaction. I had someone say to me recently that I mean they were very complimentary and they thought it was very funny, and then I mean they also, and the weird thing was I felt kind of like close to the characters by the end. And some of these characters are horrible human beings. And at best they're kind of they're not always the smartest of people. But she said, it's like it was like comfort food in a weird way. Like you got to know this town. And Michael and I did spend a lot of time, for lack of a less pretentious term, world building. And we have a lot of bonus material, which will hopefully see the light of day in one form or another. But like we have a sort of a vague layout of the town, um, for our own sake, for our own sanity. Like any true crime story, 3 episodes in, you've met 83 characters, and you're like, wait, who is this person, and why are they the other person's uncle but the first person's grandfather? And so we needed to map that out. So like I have somewhere on my computer, and I sent it to Michael and others, like the Putnams, which is the main family of the town that control Shady Grove with an iron fist. They got on Etsy, and so we had to lay. It's 4 generations of Putnams, and so we had to draw out a family tree, just so we could all keep things straight and like figure out, like go back and do math and think, well, was Robert Putnam here? How old was Robert Putnam when his daughter was born? And things that, from a purely comic standpoint, probably don't matter that much. But if there was some, annoying persnickety person like I would be, listening to it, I'd say, yeah, but that couldn't be because he wasn't born until then. And then he was, but so we really try to get every moment of that right. I never stopped to count all the characters we have in the story, but I
I have
mean,
a confession to make.
yeah,
This is a scoop, Tammy.
yeah,
Well, Jack knows it, but
yeah.
uh, so as you say, Jack, there are a lot of characters, and you did make a genealogy. You made a genealogy early on, and then at my request, you kind of rewrote the genealogy. You rechecked and rewrote it. We started working on this in 2023. We released it a little over a month ago. I think 3 weeks ago, I finally started to get a handle on who the fuck is whose dad. I and I mean, you test me on it, Jack. Test me on like who is try because
All
I
right.
think
Well,
I got it.
by the way, this is quality entertainment for the podcast listener. If you haven't listened to it, this is podcasting gold. Um, okay. So who is
Start
Eddie?
easy. Start easy. Please start easy.
Okay. Who is the patriarch of the family?
Edward Putnam, Sr.
Okay. And who are his two sons?
His two sons
Oh my
are.
God. This is, by the way, this
I
is.
got it. I got
Oh,
it.
all right, all
His
right.
two sons are Edward Putnam Jr.
Right.
and William Putnam. No, that doesn't
I'm
sound
not.
right.
I'm not angry. I'm
Wait,
disappointed
it's not
and
Willie.
angry.
It's
It's
Eddie
Walter Putnam.
Walter. It's you. Yeah, it was Walter
Yeah,
Putnam.
yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, let's stop it there because that was the easier question. So, but yes, there are four generations.
It's really hard.
Yeah, it's not that hard. You put together an incredibly complex podcast, but like keeping four names in your head, I don't get it. Um, yeah, so there's speaking parts is probably 25, 30 speaking parts. There are probably at least 10 because the four generations of Putnams, and then there's the investigator. There's probably like 10 central characters.
And then there's Greg Palmer, who's not related to the Putnams,
Right, right.
but
And
he's
that's what, yeah,
just an old man who's trying to kill a Sunday.
exactly. As in the larger sense, we all are. Um, so yes, what we try to do, and I think that's kind of like true crime podcasts too, right? Because I always have to go, wait, who's that again? And so we wanted to make that real, but we also tried our best, apparently failed in Michael's case, to remind people of who was who, and like this is why we're talking about this person. This is who Erica Hobbs is.
Yeah, you always thought that that was really important, Jack, and I was always of the opinion that, as in real true crime podcasts, where as a listener myself, I invariably get lost.
Yeah,
At which point I just sort of start letting it wash over me.
yeah. But
In
that's
this,
your approach to everyday life as well, wouldn't you say? That's your average Tuesday. Like
yeah, I take a
by
pretty
lunchtime, you're
soft focus
lost.
approach. Yeah,
Yeah, you let the rest of the day wash over you.
but I do think that there's a moment in every so often in the show where it gets so confusing that's actually funny.
Well, we
That
do lean into the confusion part of it, right?
Yeah, the Erica Hobbs, for example.
Yeah, whose daughter is named Erica Hobbs, and that confuses our host, Charlie, played by Michael, inordinately. It confuses him, and doesn't confuse him for a while. It confuses him throughout the remainder of the series. So anyway, we're just gambling on like idiots here. What's
I
next,
love
Rose?
it. I love it. For each of you, your favorite character and a favorite line.
You go first, Jack.
Okay. I think Michael knows what I'll say. My favorite character is probably um, played by his lovely and talented wife Eleanor, Margaret Mandragora Jones. She was the most fun. I don't know if she's my favorite character. She was the most fun character I've ever written. She was the most fun to write because she's very smart and has a thesaurus like vocabulary and no filters and is truly a repulsive, awful human being who hates everyone and just says the most awful things to everyone, but in hopefully the most interesting, creative ways. And so that was amazingly fun to write. And my favorite line. I don't know if I have one. Like the Erica Hobbs thing is probably my favorite bit, ongoing bit. But there was a line that I'm inordinate. Again, this is the thing that like I think most people find, oh, that's cute, but I find it inordinately funny, and we kept it in. Is there's a scene where the governor is giving a press conference at a ribbon cutting ceremony, and the ribbon cutting ceremony, it's a ribbon cutting ceremony of the opening of a factory that manufactures giant scissors for ribbon cutting ceremonies. And there's just something about that joke that I just that tickles me, and so that's probably my favorite if I had to say it. Although I'll say another one that Michael wrote that I think is just as good as anything in the whole series. It's the tagline of an ad for something for a school, in fact, and the tagline is, "If you can make it here, please use the parking around the back." So,
Please use the rear parking lot.
oh,
If you
please use
can,
the parking lot. Yeah, that's better.
Shady Grove High School for children and young adults. If you can make it here, please use the rear parking lot.
Yeah, that would be that. What about
Uh,
you, Michael?
so I have a tremendous love for Charlie in Kurika
Yeah,
because he's adorable in his incompetence. But I think my favorite character I think is Estelle because in
that's
some
awesome.
ways she's the heart of the town.
Yeah,
In a lot of ways, she holds the whole world together. Again, beautifully done by Carol Todd. Yeah, I think if I had to, but Taylor Brannigan is just like the hero, and Margaret Mandragora Jones is so delicious to hate.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so that's a non-answer answer. And my
Estelle,
favorite,
from what I've heard, is Estelle seems to be the runaway favorite for
yeah,
character. Because she's also a bit salty.
yeah, true,
And
true. And my favorite line, I think, is unscripted, completely unscripted. So as Jack intimated, I do a lot of the kind of peripheral voices, a lot of the crowd scenes, and there somehow by accident became this one character who showed up at all the press conferences.
he may be my favorite too, actually. I may
Um,
want to restate my answer.
and whenever someone was like really like sticking it to the man or being stubborn or salty, this guy was just so supportive. And he was, when Erica Hobbs came back to town and she wasn't going to take any more questions, there's a guy just clapping in the background. Gorgeous. Gorgeous. And then when Margaret Mandragora Jones has her courtroom press conference and is really tearing into the press, I might have to pull my volume down. Is that going to mess with your stuff? So he's at the end of the press conference. She walks off and he's screaming. He's so happy and he's shouting at all the reporters. He's like, "You can't handle this bitch. She's amazing." And that is my favorite line.
Yeah, that you know what? That's my daughter's favorite line. In the in the whole thing. I mean, Tammy, you've listened to it. Like, what have you enjoyed? I put you on the spot here.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite characters would have to be Charlie because he I love that he's just going out and venturing and just getting himself, no pun intended, stuck in this like absolutely bonkers town and everything that's happening like by choice. But I have two favorite lines. One is when Charlie is like randomly speaking about an ex and like saying like something about taking them back or something. I don't remember the exact line, but it just I loved it. It was so funny. And then another one was when Charlie is talking about the town and how it incorporated in one place, and then they ran out of resources and they couldn't find it, and they
They were too
reincorporated like
tired. They were exhausted after a
that's
buffalo
it.
hunt.
That's what it was. The
And
Buffalo Hut. They reincorporated like what 100 feet, 100
yeah,
whatever,
two
like
miles to the west.
two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Shady
that's what
Grove
it
was
was.
founded in 1840 and again in 1841, 2 miles to the west.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that. I love it. I love it so
The
much.
land is beautiful, especially if you find flatness attractive. Yeah. Um,
So good, so good, and just brilliant.
oh, well, thank you very much. Yeah, we're hoping more people obviously will listen to it, and that will allow us to make a season two. Um,
Yeah,
like Michael said, we'd love to go back to Shady Grove, and again, we're just incredibly gratified that so many people have really said so many nice things, and seem to be on the bandwagon too. When you come up with this silly little thing, like it's like when you have a bunch of in jokes with your friends that really make you laugh. to find out that other people like these in jokes as well, and that they can chart on Apple Podcasts. It's that's pretty great.
Excellent. Anything else you all would like to share with the listeners before we go?
If you have ears and you have a mouth, please listen and then tell other people about it. We love you. We're so grateful. Keep up the good work. We'll see you back in Shady Grove.
There we go. That's good. That's your clip.
Excellent. Well, Jack, Michael, thank you so much for being on the show, talking about the murder killings. Can't wait to have you back again for future episodes to promote and talk all things podcast. Listeners, please check the show notes. Give this a lot of love. It is a wonderfully funny show and a labor of love. And as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Creative Piecemeal. We hope today's episode left you feeling inspired. This podcast is independently created and produced by the host, Tammy Takaishi. More details about today's guest can be found in the show notes, along with links to the podcast's socials, merch store, and ways to support arts organizations AHA Broadway and New Normal Rep, both near and dear to Tammy's heart. Don't forget to visit creativepiecemeal.com, the official podcast website, where you can leave fan mail, write a review, explore Tammy's blog, and discover the growing collection of episodes. Special thanks to our audio engineer, Alex Rapetti. Additional narration by Dante Jace. Let's keep celebrating creativity in all its forms.